All right, welcome to the Beyond Jiu Jitsu podcast. I've got a new lease on life. My name's Adam Childs with my boy, Kieren Lefebvre, currently having technical difficulties. Headphones are back on. We're good to go. What is up?
Yeet, yeet. That was a solid 20-second intro, man. That's good.
Well, I had to fill in the gaps while you were untangling.
Yeah, you're like... so this is episode 117, and we are talking about the top 5 strength exercises for BJJ.
You got to get stronger.
Oos.
Yep. So we're going to talk about,
Strength.
if you're... Really, this is targeted to people like me who don't really like lifting.
Well, it is and it isn't. It's targeted toward people like you, but you don't listen. So realistically, it's not targeted. You don't really... See, it's kind of like... It's very difficult because you don't like training for strength.
No.
And you're not going to start.
That's not entirely true.
Okay, hit me.
So...
Rebuttal.
Yeah, no, it's... I guess I'm like a lot of people at that sort of... maybe crossroads is the wrong word, but, where you're kind of, for me to fit in a strength training, I would have to drop a jiu-jitsu session.
Yeah.
Right? And if you're talking to maybe the average person who trains X amount of times a week, and you might say, yeah, but I think for your health and fitness or for the longevity of your body and whatever, you should let's say if it's someone who does 2 jiu-jitsu sessions a week, you might go, man, just... If you then drop,
train jiu-jitsu at that
right.
point?
But let's say it's someone who trains 5-6 times a week. They get a good amount of volume in. You might say, hey man, for the benefit of your body and your longevity and improving your jiu-jitsu performance, maybe drop one day, one jiu-jitsu session to put a lifting or a strength and conditioning or whatever.
Yep.
So I'm in that sort of situation, but it's not as simple for me to just drop a session, because dropping a session means essentially...
sitting out.
It means taking, in sort of air quotes, taking a day off work, as in if I drop a session, it means it's not so much about not training jiu-jitsu, it's about not being in the gym, which means I've then not got to work and I've got to pay someone else to teach the class for me. And so
you could sit out, but that's easier said than done. And it's
I could, sit out and I don't have squat racks and whatever at the gym. So it's not like I could not train and I'll do my...
sitting around for an hour.
And I'm still going to have the same problem. Like, then when do I do that lifting session? It's not a matter of, I don't have the time because my body can't do it. It's because I logistically don't have the time.
Yeah.
It's like I'm either doing,
you could get up at 4 a.m.
Shut up, Goggins. Right? It's either like I'm doing admin stuff, like all that stuff with the business.
Yeah.
I'm in the gym training / teaching, or I'm, with my family. I've got a wife and a son and everything.
You haven't prioritized it, is what you're saying. Like, you've prioritized other things in your life, which is fine.
No, well, not really. It's very hard to, I could prioritize strength and conditioning
over your family.
Over my family.
That's the wrong decision. But you could, which is why I'm saying, you haven't prioritized it. It's kind of a different, right? It kind of puts the connotation on you, which is not what I'm trying to do, but yeah.
Yeah, at the moment it just kind of doesn't fit in, and I do enough jiu-jitsu that I could afford to have a day where I don't train jiu-jitsu and lift instead. But like I said, for me that means, it's actually having to then pay someone else to teach for me.
Fine, I'll do it.
All right, kids' classes are yours.
Oh, shit.
I used to do more lifting / strength and conditioning. I did pretty much all the years that I was living in Brazil and many of the years that I've been here as well, but it's become increasingly difficult.
I regret shitting on you at the start. Like you have, like you do have a history and a foundation of strength training. But for those out there that may be listening to this and like, man, I don't need strength for jiu-jitsu. You don't need to be strong for BJJ.
Got real good hip escapes. I'll be fine.
Yeah, well, I want you to listen to this.
I always believe that strength is an advantage. I know in jiu-jitsu we're supposed to say that strength doesn't matter. Well, it does. There's a reason why there's weight divisions, and there's a division between the men's division and the women's division, okay? No matter how you cut it, physical attributes do matter. I do believe that when two athletes are of matched skill level, the stronger man will generally win. So you should never be embarrassed of being strong. Yeah, even though jiu-jitsu has this traditional thing where it tends to denigrate strength. Strength is a wonderful attribute. Speed is a wonderful attribute. All these things are good things to have. You don't want to rely on them. You don't want to base your entire game upon them. But if you have them, don't be embarrassed by them. They're a good thing to have.
Stop being embarrassed by your strength.
I love it when Danaher says something that I find rather common sense, but then people will be like, "Oh my god,
controversial." It's controversial.
Yeah, man. 100%. I mean, this was before Danaher was on the scene, years and years and years ago. Cobrinha was in an interview and was asked something along the lines of, people getting accused for just being strong and whatever. And he said something along the lines of, do you criticize a big dude for being strong? That's no different to criticizing a small person like himself, like Cobrinha, or someone even smaller like Bruno Malfacini, or Mikey Musumeci. It's like criticizing them for using their agility, like if, or was it Cobrinha? Or might have been Marcel. Anyway, one of these.
It was one of the greats.
One of the greats was being interviewed. And they said something along the lines of, if I tried to go toe-to-toe with Hodger Gracie in a strength versus strength match, I would get smoked every time. And if he tried to go toe-to-toe with me in an agility match, I would win, in a sort of black and white example. It's like, you use the physical attributes you've got, and anyone complaining that someone is just, there's some truth to it, that whole, like, you're just using strength, because that is a thing. Like, you do see big, strong beginners literally just bench press themselves out of side control or whatever. But you know what I mean? Exactly what, for those who couldn't pick up on it, that was John Danaher speaking in that audio. Exactly what he said, right? The physical attributes, when all things are equal, he summed it up perfectly. That's why there are weight divisions and everything. And
physical attributes plus applied technique.
Yeah. So strength matters, speed matters, flexibility matters, mobility matters. Absolutely. All these things matter when all the techniques equal and
so just to narrow down on one of his points, if you had two opponents that had equal skill, the stronger man will win.
Yeah, pretty much, right? Like if
makes sense.
Exactly. If you had a complete clone of yourself and the only difference was one of you was stronger than the other one, why would the weaker one win?
It's illogical.
Obviously, we know that's you obviously can't replicate that scenario. Well, you could with AI and stuff like that. You could replicate all these, run the scenario a million times or whatever. But
it's the biggest backhanded compliment in jiu-jitsu, where you finish a roll, you just sub someone like, "Oh man, you're so strong." It's like,
I guess it depends how they say it, right?
Yeah, that's
like
true.
It's not what
you're
they
really
say,
strong,
it's how they say it.
Oh, you're just really strong.
But I used to get it all the time
really
with
tall
like, "Oh man, you're so tall. Oh, your legs are so long."
But man, that really fucks you over in some positions. Like, let's get into a leg entanglement, and then how your big heels helping you there.
Yeah, like we a few episodes ago, we were talking about leg entanglements and heel hooks or something like that, and it was not long after we had done back-to-back seminars, one with Craig Jones, one with Lachlan Giles, and I asked both of them personally. Because Lachlan's not a big guy, but I know heaps of his students who are big guys, like big as in tall. And Craig's not the biggest guy, but he's not a small guy, and obviously trains with lots of big guys and everything. And I asked both of them about leg entanglements as a longer legged person and whatever. And they were both kind of like, yeah, no, it's not great. You kind of don't want to be there if you've got the long legs. So it's not, people just think it is by default the better thing to have.
Yeah.
No, not at all.
So getting to the meat of the episode, the top 5 strength exercises for BJJ. What are your top 5 picks?
Bench press.
Yep, I agree. bench press. No. Yeah. So what are your top 5? What are we talking about? How have you categorized this?
Dumbbell flies.
Yeah. That machine leg press.
Yeah, that little one where your legs open and close.
Doctors. Yeah,
that
baby.
So look, 5 lifts is a very massive list to narrow down, right? So even within those 5, there's like variations of them. So I think one that's a no-brainer, let's just say deadlifts, right?
Okay.
You've got multiple variations of deadlifts, right? Like, I don't know if they're technically considered a deadlift, but like good mornings or, sumo squat deadlifts, like these are all variations of deadlifts. So even that is, there's lots of variation to it. But the first one for me is deadlifts. I think it is such and my point of view, sorry, let's just clarify it. I'm talking from a experience point of view, not from I've done my certificate 2, 3, and 4 in personal training and and all this sort of stuff. So I'm not talking about it from a scientific point of view, from an experience point of view. But deadlifts are definitely something that is such a big movement, and they're a very strong movement, and they're a movement that directly translates to jiu-jitsu. And that's for me the 5 movements that are my top 5 lifts for jiu-jitsu are movements that directly translate or have some sort of that you can feel the benefit. So a deadlift is a movement that you literally do in jiu-jitsu. So for example, if you stand up in someone's closed guard, right, that can be a deadlift, or
particularly if you pick the bastard up with you.
Yeah, or if they sit up with you, or
I do that all the time.
I'll give you an example. I was rolling with this was ages ago now, actually.
With Ollie, right?
Oh no, that's a different story. I was rolling with Joey, and Joey's a big, strong guy, and I had him in a triangle, and he full deadlifted me up, and then I was hanging up above his head.
Yep.
And Joey's probably hangs around, I guess depends how much muscle he's carrying, but anywhere from 85
to 90, low 90s, yeah.
But I'm like 100 kilos, you know, so, and that's not an invalid escape for a triangle.
Particularly when the weight is where it is, like so high up as
massive.
well. It's like a deadlift combined with like I forget what the name, I think it's called like a Zephyr lift or something, where you or like a Atlas stone lift almost, or something along those lines.
Yeah.
It's quite a hybrid movement.
The other thing that I consider for me as someone who's just talking from an experience point of view is that I'm also looking for movements that make me feel stronger.
Okay.
And the placebo effect is a real thing, like that's why it has a name. Like people, like the placebo effect can actually, that's why they test in trials and stuff, and people will still, have positive results even though they're not actually taking the medicine or whatever. It's a thing. I don't know.
Yep.
I mean, I'm not a neurologist, so I don't know exactly the ins and outs of how it works. So there's a big thing that goes with, let's say deadlifts don't actually make you stronger. For argument's sake, we know they do, but let's say they don't, but they make you feel stronger, and therefore you psychologically feel stronger and whatever, like that's a thing, So I'm also looking at lifts that make me feel stronger. And even though I can't deadlift a huge amount of weight, when I deadlift, it is something that makes me feel stronger. Like, even if it's only 80 kilos or something, but I do a deadlift, it just feels like...
You feel like a big man.
Yeah, exactly. I feel big and strong.
I'll fuck you up. Yeah, totally.
So I
totally
really
agree.
like deadlifts, as long as, and I think it goes without saying with all lifts, I mean, as long as you're doing them properly, something like a deadlift is done incorrectly, very easy to injure yourself.
Yeah, definitely.
But done correctly, and that for anyone listening who hasn't done lifts before, I do encourage you to learn them correctly. So whether that is you just cough up the money to do one PT session or something, because something like a deadlift, I remember when I was younger and I first was taught how to do them, I had a bit of a disconnect between that feeling in your body of, you're injuring your lower back, and no, that's the feeling of you using your lower back muscles.
Yep.
And then, that's the feeling of having DOMs in your lower back.
Yep.
You actually haven't injured, because, prior to that, any sort of thing that ached in your lower back, you would
scared.
just think it's back pain, and it's not a good thing.
Yeah.
So learning how to do them correctly is very important. So my number one is for sure deadlifts. I love them. I wish I did them more. I wish we had at the gym a barbell with some weights and a squat rack. It would be so
Your next
sick.
gym, let me help you design it, and we can put in a weights room. That'd be sick.
Yeah, shout out to Rogue. I mean, we're not sponsored by
Rogue
them or
Fitness,
anything, but
Yeah, Rogue's pretty good. So that's really interesting.
Like the only weights brand I know.
Yeah,
so
Rogue. Yeah, okay. Fair enough. Yeah, so yours is your first one is deadlifts. Good choice, respectable choice. And for those that don't know, I'm a fitness trainer, sports nutritionist, blah blah blah. So this is like my domain. But
let's go one for one rather than me reading out my 5.
Yeah. So that's what I'm trying to do. But see, I approach this a little bit, different. I kind of cheated a little bit. So I've got 5 categories, and then at the end, I've picked one exercise from each category, if that makes sense. So I did it the same with like you. So the way I approached this question, like, 5 best exercises, I'm like, okay, what are the 5, if I could narrow it down to 5 areas that translate most directly to jiu-jitsu and are going to have the most benefit to jiu-jitsu, it's these areas. I could
already, just sorry to cut you off, I could already tell just by the way you reworded it. So when we were initially talking about this episode, and I said the 5 best lifts for jiu-jitsu.
Yep.
In my head, I just said the word lifts because it was like, everyone knows what it means, and maybe it's, I don't know, clickbait's not the right word, but it's just very generic and people will know. But instantly when I've seen you write top 5 strength exercises, I just knew because, even lift isn't accurate. It's like, well, are you doing a push? Are you doing a pull? You're like, you're not always lifting,
Yeah. So let me go through my categories, and then we'll go one for one.
All right.
Okay. All right. So I've got push, pull, glutes / bridge movement, hinge movement, core rotation grip. So that I really would like to split that up, but I was limited by 5. Okay. But here we are. So for push, you're thinking about something pushing away. So think bench press, a push up. For pull, deadlifts, so pulling motions, glutes and bridge. So this directly translates, and this is something that guys don't do enough, like specifically males do not do enough of, because it's not like mirror muscles. And even jiu-jitsu guys, we still fall victim to that sort of mentality. And think about how often that you bridge in jiu-jitsu, bridge and roll, like bridge to escape, like a hip escape even has a bridge component so many times. Anytime you're playing guard, anytime you're on the bottom, you're bridging, right? So it's really important that we have a strong bridge. A hinge, very important. Again, guard retention, knees to chest. So that's why hinge is there. And then core and rotation is, a little bit of a no-brainer, but obviously strong core, very important for any sport, especially jiu-jitsu. Again, think guard, think any sort of position. And grip. Grip is always important. Grip fighting, holding someone down, grip on gis, grip and no gi. So let me give you my first in pull, because you did deadlift. I'm going to go to my pull category, because deadlift is a pulling exercise. So here, I was really tossing up between 2. So I'm just going to list.
Because you pigeonholed yourself by putting categories.
I know, man.
I'm reading your notes.
Don't read my notes, bro. That's cheating, man. You get your own notes.
Well, hang on. Well, why don't I? I'm looking at across the table.
Well.
Why don't I say my number 2? Because they're both in your pull category. So
okay, that's interesting. You have 2 pulls.
Yeah, because look, I didn't. When I was, it's funny. Calm down.
You don't need to back pedal, man. I do this for a living. I do this from professionally.
But it's interesting because even me as not being a professional in this domain, I was still even having the conversation with myself when I was thinking of my top 5.
Yeah.
I was already, I've got, I think I have 3 just off the top of my head now, replaying my list. I think 3 of them are pulls.
You do.
And, so I knew that then, and I know that I don't have a core exercise in there. So even I was thinking pull, push, core. I was trying to think all these things. But then I was like, look, no, I'm not trying to think like I'm a personal trainer, S&C trainer. I'm just trying to think. I went with the whole, what are the 5 exercises that I feel, no, not that I personally like. Like I've got squats in there and I fucking hate squats.
What I mean is like that you like.
That I feel a direct translation, opposed to someone saying, I promise this will make you stronger. And you might not realize it, but you're going to be stronger in these positions.
Trust me, bro, trust me.
Whereas the 5 that I picked, I directly feel stronger when I've done 4-6 weeks of it enough that you've,
Okay, what's number 2? Hit me.
So is pull-ups, and this is again pull-ups / chin-ups, whichever way. And again, lots of variations. Are you overhand? Are you underhand? Wide grip? Close grip? Are you using Are you using cut off gi sleeves? So you're working on
grips,
you know.
Yeah.
So lots of variations to it, but I just summarize it as pull-ups / chin-ups. This with squats are probably my two most freaking hated exercises, and it's because I suck at them so bad.
Yeah.
Pull-ups, I am atrociously
That's
bad
how you
at
hurt
pull-ups.
yourself.
Maybe yes and no. I mean, I think that out of context sounds really bad. You know, if you were
your elbow?
If you were to clip that, you know, you hurt yourself doing pull-ups. Yeah, man, I'm just so good at them. I hit my forehead on the bar. Sort of, yeah. So
that's
quick. The side note. I had elbow surgery probably a year ago now.
Bone spurs,
you know, which is bone spurs and bone fragments in my elbow. Essentially years of wear and tear of hyperextension and hypercompression of the elbow joint. And then I was doing pull-ups. It wasn't like just one random day I was doing pull-ups. I had been doing them for X amount of time or whatever. And as they should be done, to max extension, right? Like full, essentially dead hang between each repetition. And it was just one day doing the pull-ups that was like the last straw that broke the camel's back, and that full extension of my elbow. It wasn't like obviously I dropped into it, but just that load, and that was where it was the straw that broke the camel's back, and my elbow could no longer handle, you know, being in that max extension. And now even post-surgery, like if I were to go do pull-ups now, it's just, I can't do max. Like I could do it, but it would really hurt my elbow.
Yeah,
and now it's just if you see me doing pull-ups, I'll be one of those dudes that people look and be like, oh, he's
cheat reps.
Yeah, he's cheating, but I just can't do max extension. Yeah. I can't do max extension anymore because that was the final one that jammed the bones together.
So number 2.
Pull-ups, yeah. I mean, that's just directly translates so much. There's so much pulling in jiu-jitsu, especially if you're talking about in the gi, so much pulling. And it's just one of an exercise that I directly feel stronger when I then go and train. Yeah. But God, I hate pull-ups. I'm just so bad. I hate them. I'm not even joking, man. Like, you know, if I think back to max extension pull-ups, or even chin-ups, ask me to do 5, probably not even happening.
That's difficult. Even to do 1 is difficult. If you can do a full range of motion, legit dead hang, overhand pull-up, you are in like the top X%. You know what I mean? Of strength.
It's funny.
It's difficult.
It's funny you say that, because when you speak to people who are, you know, semi-educated about these movements, they'll say exactly like that.
Yeah.
Like if you know, quite well known that I've done a lot of my training with Joey from Jungle Brothers. And I remember saying to him ages ago, you know, I can do like 2 or something. And he's like, man, that's not that bad. He's like, people go, I can do 10 chin-ups, but then they're those little, I mean, a cheat would be an exaggeration. They're
like going halfway.
Not even, like it's like from their forehead to their chin. They're doing face-ups.
Yeah.
Right. And he's like, yeah, man, like not many people can do,
full extension.
5, 10 reps of full extension, dead hang, pull-ups or chin-ups.
Yeah,
I mean, now I can lean on the excuse of biologically not being able to do them because my elbow's all fucked up. But yeah, they're hard work. And I mean, when you're 100 kilos like me, that's a lot to pull.
100 kilos of lean muscle, baby. Okay, so let me go through my top 2 categories at the moment are push and pull. This is in no particular order, but I suppose it's sort of ranked, maybe. Push and pull, right? So we've got in the push category, I've got 2 exercises that I'm tossing up between, and I've got one that I picked, but it's overhead press or military press, as it's sometimes called, barbell overhead press, or you can do dumbbell variation, or probably my preferred is kettlebell bottoms up press. And
like a shoulder press.
Yes. Yeah. So press above the head, I'm talking. Yeah. And the reason that I would rather, for jiu-jitsu specifically, go with something like a kettlebell overhead press or a dumbbell variation is because of the stability involved.
100%.
Whereas when you're pushing overhead a barbell, yes, you can move more weight, but you're missing out on some of the stability factor, which particularly if you're translating to sport becomes very important. Like it's important for everyone, but if you're in the gym just to push some fucking weight and to put on some muscle, I would say, go with barbell overhead press all day over something like a dumbbell, because you can drive more weight and you can create more muscle hypertrophy in the big movers, right? So that has a place in a fitness program, and even my jiu-jitsu specific fitness programs include barbell work specifically military press or overhead press, whatever you want to call it. But the reason, if I was going to choose one, I would go with kettlebell bottoms up press. And if you don't know what a bottoms up press is, you might be thinking, what the fuck? Imagine a kettlebell. You have the handle of the kettlebell is called the horn. Imagine holding the kettlebell by the horn, almost like you're holding it upside down. And the kettlebell is directly above your fist. So I'm trying to explain this over audio. So it's not like hanging down on your wrist. You're using your grip strength to hold the kettlebell in place. So there's pros and cons of this movement. The con is you can't push as much weight because it's very difficult to hold the kettlebell in a stable position like that. But the pro is that you're getting a press in there, you're getting grip strength in there. So you're working your pushing motion, and you're working your grip strength, and you're working all your stability as well. Lots of stability
in your wrist, your elbow, your shoulder.
Exactly. Yeah. All the way up your arm, and even in your lat, like everywhere, right? Yeah, so that's why I would go with it. Yeah,
just on the back of that. Yeah, for those who aren't familiar with this lift, so shoulder press was actually one of my, I didn't specifically put bottoms up kettlebell press, but I had shoulder press in as one of my top 5 lifts as well.
Mm-hmm.
And
is this number 3?
Yeah, whatever.
Good segue.
Yeah, because because I'm looking at ones that I feel directly stronger, but obviously a byproduct of that, or a bonus feature, if you will, is your shoulders are such a problematic joint. So anything you can do to strengthen it is super valuable. But speaking of kettlebell bottom-up presses, for those who aren't familiar with it, just your standard overhead shoulder press, again, 100% agree with Kieren, something with a kettlebell or a dumbbell far superior for all the stability work you're going to get, rather than using a barbell to do military press or something like that. Mm-hmm. But the benefit with a kettlebell is you actually have 3 shoulder press variations you can do before you increase your weight. So let's say you're someone who already does shoulder presses with the kettlebell, and maybe you've got, let's say, a 10 kilo kettlebell, and you're thinking, man, this is too easy. I've got to buy some heavier kettlebells or whatever. But you're doing your standard shoulder press, right? Which is where you would hold the kettlebell handle, the horn, in the palm of your hand, and you would have the bell essentially on the back of your forearm, and you'd be doing your shoulder press. And let's say you can do however many reps you want with that. So then the next degree of progression in difficulty would be holding the kettlebell just like the bell in the palm of your hand and doing the same movement. And you'll notice you'll get a bit of stability work from that, and it'll be a little bit harder. And then once you progress past that, you do the bottoms up one. And then once the bottoms up one is too easy, that's when you like, okay, now I need heavier kettlebells. Yeah. So there's actually 3 different shoulder press variations you can do with the one weight, right? And then when you go up in weight, you would go back to doing a standard, with the horn in your hand and the bell on the back of your forearm. And you can progress through the weights like that. And to go into more detail rather than shoulder press, bottoms up kettlebell press is such a good shoulder press. And massively, you'll notice it as well that on whichever side your grip strength is worse, you'll make sure you don't drop the bell on your head.
Yeah, so I like to keep my other hand, that's a really good point. I like to keep my other hand poised to catch it, and you got to keep your eye on the bell the whole time. Like you got to be laser focused.
It's kind of like doing Turkish get-ups, right? If you got to be aware that if you're doing them at a weight or a repetition where fatigue to failure could happen, you got to be ready. You don't want to drop that on your head. Yep. I've actually only just realized I've never even tried a bottoms up kettlebell Turkish get up. That'd be hard work.
That'd be very hard.
Because usually when I do Turkish get ups, I'll just hold the kettlebell how you typically do.
Yeah.
But geez, that'd be real hard
work.
That'd
be very difficult. Because people can do it. People can do Turkish get ups with like a barbell above their head.
Yeah, I've seen
JT do that. Shout out to JT. He's a strong motherfucker. Yeah. He can do a full barbell above his head.
I remember one of my favorite stories of JT. He's a strong dude. He likes to lift. He lifts very heavy, very good technique as well with his lifts. And
he's a pro.
He's a beast. One of my favorite stories from him years ago, he was in like a Fitness First or Anytime Fitness, just in Australia, that's just a chain of gyms. And there was this guy doing deadlifts, and it was whatever weight. 120 kilos or something, you know, a heavy weight, but not for someone like JT necessarily. And this guy's like acting like he's a big beast, strong man. He's like, just screaming the reps, and he's just like taking over the whole gym. And JT in his classic, like, lack of a better term, like alpha male move, he's kind of just like, man, you mind if I work in with you? And the guy's like, yeah, sure. And like JT just walks in and does like one-handed single leg deadlifts with the same weight and just pumps him out. It's like, thanks, mate. And walks off.
That's such a dick move. That's such a JT thing to do as well. Fucking hell. Bloody hell, JT. All right. So yeah, my number 2, I've only got up to 2. Wow. Pull. So pulling category. So here I'm looking at overhand heaves or overhand pull-ups, as they're more commonly known, and deadlifts. Now, I've actually gone with, because I needed to choose one, I've gone with overhand pull-ups.
Over deadlifts?
Over deadlifts.
Probably because you got
a different variation of deadlifts later in the list. Yeah, you're onto it. Yes. So as much as I love deadlifts for the posterior chain, and for those that don't know, your posterior chain is the chain of muscle that runs down your back to your, almost to your feet, right? To your feet. It's like your posterior, your back. And the reason that is so important for jiu-jitsu is anytime you are in a position where you need to weight bear someone in a hinge position, or say, for example, a good one is standing up in closed guard. That's probably just the best example to give. Or like even you're dragging someone, right? And if you don't have a really strong posterior chain and a core and blah, 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 but a posterior chain, you can compromise your lower back. You can compromise even your upper back or your lower body. It's very easy to hurt yourself, if you will, if your posterior chain isn't strengthened. And not only that, but deadlifts also improve your grip strength. They improve your pulling power, your core, your lats also activate through deadlifts. They're such a really good movement. But in saying all that,
say this is a lot of positive comments to say, but I didn't choose them.
I didn't choose them for this because I have a different variation in another category later on the list. And that's what ultimately led me to say, okay, if I had to choose one, I would cut deadlifts and include overhand heaves. And another reason I would include overhand heaves instead of deadlifts is because deadlifts, like you mentioned, are very easy to do the wrong technique. They're a more higher skill movement to learn correctly. And for most people that may be listening to this that don't have experience lifting, I would rather you start with doing a pull-up variation over starting with deadlifts. I spent the first 12 months of my lifting career, if you will, without doing a single deadlift because I knew I would just so happened that I had this foresight that if I didn't learn how to do them correctly, I could hurt myself. And I was worried about that. So I got a PT, did a whole bunch of sessions, and we focused pretty much just on deadlifts, some other stuff too, but yeah. And then obviously deadlifts became part of my repertoire. So I will go with an overhand heave. And
yeah, it's a way harder movement than you realize. There's reasons why gold medal winning Olympic weightlifters still have coaches helping them with that first portion of their lift, which is a deadlift essentially, right?
100%.
Like it is, power lifters have coaches, bodybuilders have coaches. It's a hard movement. It's way more complicated. Like when you're starting to push the weight as well, difficult to do correctly without hurting yourself.
Yeah, definitely. Not that you should be scared of it, but just be aware. So that's why I would go with an overhand pull-up. Now, to go with the theme of a progression, if you can't do a pull-up, and that's okay. Like I mentioned, it is fucking difficult. Not many people can. Like if you can do a pull-up, you're in like the top echelon of strength out of the entire general population. So don't be fooled.
On that note, can I just segue to something? Because coincidentally, I heard this just the other day, and so I don't know if this is correct or not, but it was like this video from some strongman dude that said, if you can bench, if you can bench your body weight, if you can squat 1.5 your body weight, and if you can deadlift double your body weight, you're like in the top 5%. Is that true?
That's true.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Not only that, it's to take it further. The reason that is such a reoccurring theme, especially with powerlifters, is that that's how they judge how strong you are relative to someone else. Because you and I, right? If I can deadlift 100 kilos and you can deadlift 100 kilos, it's completely different because you weigh 100 kilos, I weigh 80 kilos. So in relative strength, I'm technically stronger than you, even though we're lifting the exact same weight. So they use like these tables and metrics based on your body weight and how many times greater, or what the weight you're lifting is, what it is as a ratio compared to your body weight, and then they plug all those numbers into a table and it spits out a total number, and that is like a metric on how you can judge the strength between powerlifters in different weight classes and different genders. But
that only becomes relevant when you're talking about a bunch of professional lifters.
No, it's for everyone. Like you could plug anyone's.
Yeah, but does it like, you know, but then, you know, does it then also go the other way that, you know, if, I don't know, if it's like a lifting movement like pull-ups, is it then, well, if you do one pull-up but I do one pull-up, like,
that's a really good question.
Like I'm stronger because I'm lifting more weight?
You're bringing up a really good point. So then yes, it's relative to your body weight, because if you are 100 kilos, you have 100 kilos of mass that you need to pull up. But in theory, you should have that equivalent in muscle. So you would have more muscle than me. If we had the exact same body fat percentage, right? So if say you're 10% body fat, I'm 10% body fat, but you're 100 kilos and I'm 80, you have more muscle. You have 20 kilos of more muscle, right?
Yeah. But then I guess that'd also be
more muscle, but you know what I mean?
Yeah. But then wouldn't it also, you could also say, but I've also got like a bigger distance to pull as well. Like I'm also traveling a bigger distance.
Yeah, maybe
at least we're
rabbit holing, but you could then have very short arms relative to your torso. I could have very long arms, and that's called the ape index. Yeah, literally. It's called the ape index, and funnily enough, that's a very important number for rock climbers, because there's a certain ratio of ape index that is ideal for rock climbers. And it's not what you think. Being too tall or too lanky in rock climbing can actually be a hindrance.
Right. I guess the point I'm getting to is how it was explained to me years ago, and it could have just been someone just, you know, spitting fake information or whatever. But they essentially said, yeah, for sure. Like if you're bigger and heavier, like in theory, you should be able to lift more, press more,
yes, you should,
pull more, or whatever. But it's like your body has the potential to grow all that muscle and do that. But typically from a baseline, that's not necessarily how it works. Like if you get, you know, two people who don't exercise, one weighs 50 kilos and one weighs 100 kilos, and neither of them exercise or whatever, like the 50 kilo guy is probably going to be able to do more chin-ups than the 100 kilo guy.
Should be, yeah. But the 100 kilo guy is going to be able to deadlift more than the 50 kilo guy. All day long.
I guess.
All day long. So it depends on what exercise. And the point that I thought you were going to bring up, and you sort of like, you skirted the edge of it.
I don't know, but I've also had coaches sometimes when I've been deadlifting, like, I don't know, maybe they were just cutting me slack, but they've been, you know, I haven't been able to do something. They're like, bro, look how fucking levers. Far you've got to pull that up off the ground.
And we're talking about levers here, and that is a good point. And you'll see that some of the strongest guys in the world.
Just looking for excuses for why I can't lift much weight.
Well, no, you're right. And if you look at some of the strongest people in the world, there was a guy that was a small person. I think that's the politically correct term. And he was one of the strongest men in the world relative to his size, because of his levers. So his levers are perfect. If you think about leverage, right? And if I need to lift a barbell off the ground 10 centimeters versus you need to lift it off the ground a meter, who do you think is going to be able to move more weight relative to their body weight? The person that has less to travel, right? Yeah. And that's called bar travel, right? So if you look at, probably explain this poorly.
I remember seeing remember that famous kid Tarzan guy, whatever his name was.
Yep.
And
this was like a kid that was like 12 years old. His dad, turns out that he was feeding him steroids, and he was like absolutely fucking jacked. And he became like a freak show. Yeah. Poor guy. Poor kid.
But I remember he did this little competition with professional powerlifters where it was how many reps they could squat or something.
Yeah.
And they worked out the weight so it was relative to their size and weight and everything. Man, and it wasn't even close. It was something like, you know, if the powerlifters could do 10 reps or something, the kid did like 50.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know how much of that is the fact that, you know, well, physically it's not as much weight. He's not having to travel as far with the weight, or because obviously the power lifters are stronger than him.
Yes.
They're big, fully grown adult males, but they can't
But are they relatively stronger than him? That's the question that's being answered.
But I guess you get
the nervous system.
But I guess you also get to you would have to get to a critical point.
You do, and that's due to the pressure on your nervous system.
For example, for me, trying to deadlift, 1 ton and 1,000 tons feels exactly the same because I can't move either of them. Like obviously you get to some certain point where the weight essentially becomes irrelevant because there's only so much that the human body's capable of.
Well, you get to a point where you have other factors coming into play. Like if you say relative, if you were trying to like squat 300 kilos and it's the same relative weight to someone else's 100 kilos, 300 kilos is going to be way more taxing on the joints and the central nervous system than the 100 kilos, regardless of how much muscle you have. So there's other factors that come into play. And then you have factors like someone's biology and genetics, which do play a massive part. And that's due to levers. That's why at the upper echelons of powerlifting, you will find that the outliers in one specific lift will be so far ahead of the pack, but in all the others, they're so far below, right? And an example of that is maybe like, I'm pretty sure the guy that has, like, this is all different weight categories, but in certain weight categories, the guy that has the world record in bench press has a really shit deadlift and squat. But his bench press, because he's genetically designed to fucking press, like it's perfect for his body, he can just outperform everyone. And you see that on each of the lifts. Like different body types will be better at different lifts. But then we have another point, and you might be saying, okay, but you can deadlift 2 times your body weight. I can't, but I can do a muscle up. I can do 10 muscle ups and you can't do any. Or I can do this calisthenics exercise moving my body weight and you can't.
It's funny because almost a direct sort of comparison was me and Jake, one of the guys from the gym. We used to do heaps of lifting together pretty much once or twice a week, every week for ages pre-COVID, right? And it was funny because we didn't know why, and this is still to this day, that if we're doing push-ups, right, like proper push-ups, so I don't know what the way to describe them is, but like not shitty push-ups, proper push-ups that if you don't know what a correct push-up is, you do a push-up correctly, like a gymnastics push-up, man, they're hard. You similar to pull-ups, right? People are like, yeah, I can do 10, 20 chin-ups or whatever, but they're shit. They're not actual. Same with push-ups, I find. People go, yeah, I can do 20 push-ups.
Depends on the standard of push-up.
Yeah, you're like, that ain't no push-up, bro. You do a proper gymnastics push-up, and they're hard work.
Yeah, gymnastics push-ups different to your, like, what I would call a standard push-up.
Yeah. But anyway, like Jake could do way more push-ups than me, and we're doing those push-ups where you're on kind of like the parallel bars so you can get,
lower,
get lower and everything. And he could always do way more reps than me. But then if we would do something like dumbbell press, so we're essentially just more or less flipping over, our hand grips are in the same position and everything, I could do way more weight and way more reps than him.
Yeah, I think I know why.
And they're both kind of pressing movements, obviously different, but
what's your weight compared to him? You're bigger than him.
Yeah, I would weigh.
And at the time, you probably weigh like maybe 10 to 15 kilos heavier than him.
Yeah,
that's why.
But then, shouldn't I be able to press more?
No, because it's in your body weight because you have more body weight to move, right?
That's right. But then, doesn't that go back to everything else? Like with the chin up, shouldn't I be able to lift more? Because I'm
no, because you have to move more weight, and you're relative to Jake, like your strength isn't. Okay, let me try. We definitely get it off top.
Look, it doesn't matter.
It does make sense, and that makes perfect sense. So if you told me that Jake could do more push-ups than you, but then you could squat more than him, I'd be like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. Or like you could do more push-ups than he could do more push-ups than you, but you could bench press more than him. I'm like, yeah, that's perfectly explained. Then you can do more. You can do heavier weight for more reps because you have.
But didn't you say before?
Yeah.
Yeah, I weigh more.
Yeah.
So it's more weight to lift.
Yes.
But I also have more muscle because my body's bigger.
Yes, but that's if we were identical in terms of we have the exact same structure, we have the exact same body fat percentage. In theory, you should be able to do the same amount, or we should be able to do the same amount of calisthenics, all things equal.
Look, so what I've taken away from this complete sidetrack is that next time someone says to me, hey, Adam, why can't you lift that much weight? You're big and strong. And I can say, look, how much time you got? I got a whole list of excuses as to why I suck at lifting.
Is anyone
weight.
saying that to you? Adam, you're big and strong. Why can't you lift?
No, no one's.
No, I don't think so.
No, but I definitely, if I do go lifting with friends, they're always like, fuck, bro, I thought you'd be able to lift. I'm like, nah, man, I suck.
Yeah. You got a jiu-jitsu though. So you have at the moment in your list is deadlifts, pull-ups, and shoulder press. My list, I've gone through, I've gone with, my push is bottoms up, kettlebell bottoms up press. My pull is overhand pull-ups. Now, I just will go quickly through my third one, and then we'll go through your last two, and I'll do my last two.
Yep.
Okay, so my third one is, the category is glutes and bridge, that bridging motion that I mentioned at the start. And for this, there's different exercises you have in this category. You got squats, variations of squats like goblet squat, front barbell squats, barbell back squats, and split squats, and a glute bridge. I nearly went with a glute bridge just to be like, fuck you to all the guys that hate them. And I think that is probably one of the best exercises that translates directly to jiu-jitsu as a glute bridge. However, I've gone with barbell back squats because you still get that activation that you get from a glute bridge. You get a similar activation in a barbell back squat, but you're getting the other benefits in the barbell back squat, including all your posterior chain. So that's a common theme. So just for that reason, I'm going with barbell back squat over a glute bridge, but I still think that, guys, you need to be doing barbell glute bridges, please.
Yeah. So I had similar for me. So we'll go through my last two. I had squats in there as well.
Yep.
But I have since changed that for a couple of reasons. One, because I hate squats. But
you changed it during this conversation.
No, I was already thinking about it prior to this. But squats are a great movement. I don't have a problem with them. They just really sort of, at least for me personally in my body, I don't enjoy them, and they hurt me. I have problems with doing like full depth squats with knee injuries. Mm-hmm. And I also previously, when I was last doing squats, I got to a point where when the weight got to a certain point, my technique, the lack of, started to become a problem. And like I was strong enough to do the squat, as in obviously I wasn't, because I wouldn't be saying this, but like my quads and glutes were strong enough to do the squat, but my technique was not good enough that I started like hurting my lower back while doing the squats. And is that fixable? Yeah, I'm sure it is with a trainer and everything.
With accessory exercises.
And I wasn't in the position to do that. So I have since changed it also for a second reason, because if I was going to, you know how whenever we've spoken about strength and conditioning and that, we said, well, the best workout is the one that you do.
Yes.
Right? So let's say you're like, okay, I'll find the time, 1 day a week I can go lift. It's better than 0 days,
You're not going to waste that doing squats, right?
Well, yeah. But yeah, I don't want to do deadlifts and squats in the same workout, right? It's at least for me, it's a bit too much on my lower back.
It's pretty hectic,
So I'm going to pick a different one, which is again one that I find direct translation into feeling stronger in jiu-jitsu, and that's my pistol squats.
Okay.
Just because I can do them, like I can't do a full pistol squat, so you can, for those who don't know, pistol squats are essentially one-legged squats where the leg you're not working is sticking straight out in front of you.
Quite difficult to do.
Very difficult, a full pistol squat. So if you can't do them, you essentially like
use it on a box.
Use it on a box or a chair or something. And like I feel the direct translation into massively increased ankle and knee stability from doing pistol squats, that then when I go train, particularly if I'm passing and people are trying to put in deep De La Riva hooks and stuff, I feel way stronger and more stable in my ankle and knee if I'm consistently doing pistol squats. So I've changed out regular squats for pistol squats.
That's a great one. And you need, in a jiu-jitsu program, you need some form of balance stability work. So pistol squats is perfect for that, because as you mentioned, your stability in your knees, stability in your hip, stability in your ankle, and your balance and strength in that position. Not only that, we're talking about moving your body weight. Yes, you can do weighted once you progress, and there's progressions to get to a full pistol, blah, blah, blah. But I think that it's an absolute fantastic exercise. I didn't include it in mine, but it was definitely on the agenda.
Yeah, the other one that was on the agenda for me was single leg deadlifts. I think they're also a super great movement for strength and stability in your leg.
So my fourth category is hinge, and for that, single leg deadlift.
Oh, well, there you go.
There you bloody go. Look at that. We're literally on the same page.
And they're one that done correctly, where you're correctly hinging, you should feel your hemi working quite substantially.
Yes, you should.
And if you've
It almost feels like a stretch. So
yeah, that's right.
It's hard for when people are first learning it. They're like, oh, is this really working? I just feel like it, I'm limited. I need to do more flexibility work because it just feels like it's stretching. That's what it should feel like.
Yeah, and I tell you what, whenever I've gotten people to do single leg deadlifts who haven't done them before, and yeah, they'll have that sort of, it's not really doing anything. I'm just kind of leaning forward and back.
Talk to me tomorrow.
Yeah, that's right. Come back to my house.
Yeah.
Bro, if you, any DOMs, right? I mean, I train jiu-jitsu 6 days a week, but I haven't done bench press in over a year. If I did bench press today, I would have DOMs tomorrow.
Yep.
But the DOMs from single leg deadlifts, when you haven't done them in a long time,
they're hectic.
Bro, your hammies are sore for so long.
Yeah,
like
man.
And I guess, of course you get DOMs any muscle or exercise you haven't done in a long time. But man, single leg deadlifts, you'll do. And every time I go back to doing them after not having done them, I just default back to whatever weight I was doing previously, and I'll just go, I'll just pick up a six, because you can do heavier typically than you should, right? So I'll just go back and pick up a 16 kilo kettlebell or something, do like 4 sets of 10 of single leg deadlifts. Then the next day I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Because I could probably do unweighted single leg deadlifts today and have DOMs tomorrow.
And just
I haven't
to clarify,
done them in so long.
Just to clarify here, we're talking about straight leg, the single leg straight leg variation. So you can technically do a single leg deadlift without it being a straight leg variation, even though it's difficult. So we're focusing on this single leg, straight leg deadlift. Yeah, and just to really like fucking.
But even without the weight, even unweighted single leg deadlifts, you get a lot of value in stability work from it. And I bet you'll have one leg that you're far more stable than the other. Yeah. Right. So if you're new to single leg deadlifts, or if you've never done them, honestly, give them a go and try do them. Let's say you're doing 10 reps. Try do the full 10 reps without the other foot touching the ground. Yeah. There's a lot of stability work that goes into it. Stability,
we're talking balance, like coordination. It's like stability and balance are two different things, sort of. Like you need to focus. It's kind of like I was talking about with the bottoms up press. You need to focus on what you're doing, and that directly translates to jiu-jitsu. Imagine someone's picked up a single leg on you, like a single leg takedown, and you're bouncing and like hopping around. If you are very competent at these unilateral balance work, you're going to stay on your feet better. Yeah. Right?
Do you know exactly why I'm chuckling?
Why?
With that anecdote? Like if someone picks up a single leg and you're hopping around, and I want to remind everyone how you hurt your ankle ages back.
Yeah, it's because Joey held onto my ankle when he was meant to let it go, and I fucking rolled my ankle. Fuck it, no. It wasn't Joey's fault. I have very shit ankles. So this is work I need to do. I need to do this sort of stuff. I have a balance board in my office. I used to get on it more than I do now. I do it like once a month now. But balance board work can also help if you have shitty ankles.
Have you been told this one before from a physio, that for ankle stability work or whatever, because a lot of, let's use the word rehab or maintenance exercise can be rather tedious, and you find it can be, so if you can somehow find the time to do it where it overlaps with something else. So one that was told to me was like, oh man, so just balance on one foot while you're brushing your teeth.
Yeah, I have heard that, yes.
It's a easy, quick way to fit in some stability work. Yeah. Oh, that's too easy? Try do it with your eyes closed. You'll soon learn how hard it is to balance on one foot.
And also, just as a tangent with balance boards, if you do want to go that path, if you just use the balance board and just learn to balance, you're just going to get really good at balancing on a balance board. It's not actually going to translate as much as you would think into everyday life and jiu-jitsu. So what you need to do, ironically enough, as the physio that you were speaking to mentioned, you need to continuously complicate the exercise. You need to be doing something whilst you're balancing, like juggling, or like, I don't know, close your eyes, or doing something with your hands, brush your teeth. Fucking, I don't know, make a sandwich. That's kind of weird. Take the balance board to the kitchen, or maybe doing some work or something, whatever. But if you just balance for the sake of balancing on the board, then it's not going to make you more stable. It's just going to make you good at balancing on a balance board. So keep that in mind as well. Juggling's a really good one. And once you get really good at juggling on the balance board, add 4 balls to juggle.
Hey, that's not that easy, bro. You can't just add a new ball.
Man, I can fucking juggle. It's all good.
Can you?
Yeah.
4 balls?
3.
Yeah. Just add a 4th, bro. It's just like, this is easy.
Well, fuck. When I get really good at it, I will, bro. And I'll put it on Patreon. Join our Patreon. Link in the description. Okay, so that's like the hinge movement, and it's also this hinge. Just to round it off, and then I'll move on to your fifth, and then my fifth is hinge is also good for guard retention. So if you want to get stronger at guard retention, yes, there's mobility work that you can do, but because we're talking about strength and strength exercise, this hinge work is going to work your posterior chain, and it's going to better enable you to get your knees to your chest and be strong there. That's what we're talking about here. So it's excellent. Hinge is an excellent exercise.
Yep. All right, my fifth. Keep in mind that my five are not some perfectly well-rounded
I think we've established
workout.
that.
Well, I'm just letting people know. Maybe someone has, skipped through the episode or something. But this is probably my number one pick. I don't know why, but this is my number one pick for the exercise that I really, really felt translate to jiu-jitsu and really made me feel strong, which was, I might have the name incorrect, but I believe they're called Renegade Rows.
Perfect.
Which, but let me explain how I'm doing them, and it might not be the correct name because I think Renegades have the push-up in it, or no?
Yes.
So that's not what I've been doing, right?
Okay.
So anyway, so essentially getting dumbbells, right? And you put them on the ground, and you go into a push-up position with your hands on the dumbbells, and then just doing rows, right? Not with a push-up between each repetition. However, the thing that was drilled into me when learning these that makes them difficult is how adamant you have to be in staying flat. And I mean flat as in not having your hips and your shoulder.
Hips in line. Your hips and shoulders in line.
Yeah. So you'll find, let's say you do Renegade rows or whatever, push-up rows maybe these are called, or whatever they would be called without adding the push-up in.
Maybe just like a bridge row, something like that.
Whatever. If you did them allowing yourself to twist, you'll be able to do easily like 10% heavier weight than you could.
If not more.
Yeah. When you have someone when you're learning these and someone who is over the top of you, being like, nah, man, no, don't do it, you'll soon find that you need way less weight than you think you can do.
And there's almost no point doing the exercise if you're going to twist.
Because then you may as well do a regular row.
Exactly.
Or you may as well do a bent over row.
Exactly.
Or whatever.
You may as well split your core and your row exercise up.
Yeah.
Like why bother doing this exercise?
Yeah. And and that leads to my next point. This has a core element to it as well. It's the same, it's like even a push-up, a correctly done push-up has a core element to it as well.
Yeah.
And the push-ups that Joey used to make me do were like, and these are the ones I'm thinking about when I say gymnastics push-ups, were all body encompassing. So like you'd be doing the push-ups and he would come around and poke your glute if it wasn't tense.
Yep.
He would poke your quad. He'll poke your calf muscle. Like your entire body had to be tense. Like you were flexing on a bodybuilding stage. So you would do, after a few reps, you were wrecked. But these rows, man, I absolutely love them. It, covers a huge amount of your body. And it is one that, I don't know why, but I felt instant direct It's almost like I did them one day and then the next day I was stronger in jiu-jitsu.
You're a black belt.
Obviously it wasn't like that, but I love them and I love doing them properly, and you can, going back to Jake again, this was one that, I guess it's the same story. We're talking about the push-ups and the dumbbell press. Jake can do way more pull-ups and chin-ups than me, but when it comes to these rows, like he can't get anywhere near the weight that I can do.
Do you have a stronger core? Are you better at core exercises?
We're similar with core exercises.
That would probably mean, okay. I think maybe it's your core is probably a bit stronger, but that is interesting.
But anyway, I absolutely love this exercise. I think it's one of the best. It's done properly. It's very hard, and I like it as well because you can, at least for me, and I don't know if it works the same for everyone with this exercise, but for me, I find I have a very good balance between, like once I start getting to the point where the weight's at a weight where I start to twist, it's also close to the limit of how heavy I could lift anyway. I feel like I've got a real good equilibrium with this exercise where it's not like I could go absurdly heavier and cheat anyway. Yeah. So I don't know. I just have a good balance with it. I love this exercise and it's, and And I feel direct translation. I know I got 3 pulls in my top 5. There's no real like core in there or anything, but you know.
No, there is core. There is core throughout, but there's no core specific exercises in just doing core.
Yeah.
But your renegade rows do have an element of core.
Yeah.
Which brings me to my 5th category, which is core grip. And here I'm talking about, well, I went back and forth in so many different exercises. I looked at hollow body progressions, which are fantastic core for jiu-jitsu.
They sure are.
And for those that don't know what a hollow body progression is, look it up. But basically, think about if you are in almost like a crunch position, like you're about to do a crunch, but instead of doing a crunch up, you're going to crunch up and hold. So you're holding your legs up in the air. You're lifting your shoulders and your head off of the ground. And you're holding yourself in like that boat or that hollow body.
Yeah, you've probably for people, you've probably seen like a really advanced variation of this where people on Instagram or YouTube, TikTok or whatever, they're essentially in that semi-U/V shape, and they're like, they're rocking almost like they're, and that's very difficult to do.
That's why we call it the progression, because there's so many different exercises that lead up to that, and it just gets more and more difficult. You can make it crazy.
You'll know if you've done a hollow body correctly because you'll fucking hate it.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And then we have in this category we have hanging leg raises, and that progression we have. I wanted to include rotation here as well, because rotation is very, very important for jiu-jitsu, and it's something that people neglect because it's not the type of exercises that are in your run-of-the-mill, like download PDF off the fucking internet, bodybuilding style training, right? And where rotation is so important because 1, we don't train it often enough, and 2, we're talking about being strong in obscure positions. And what does that remind you of? Jiu-jitsu.
Jiu-jitsu.
Exactly. So Romanian twists are here, or landmine twists, and for grip we have dead hangs or variations of where you hang onto a gi, as you mentioned earlier, or a towel if you don't have a gi. That's another trick. You should be bringing a gym towel to the gym, so throw your towel over and grip off that. That will work. But I ultimately went with hanging leg raises and that variation. And the reason...
They suck too.
They do. And the reason I went with this over hollow body progressions or some of the rotation exercises, you can do variations of hanging leg raises. They're called windscreen wipers, where you do get rotation. It's very fucking difficult, where you wag your imagine hanging on a bar, keeping your legs out straight, but then bringing your legs up like a toaster bar. But instead of doing a toaster bar regular and straight down, you're going to windshield wiper.
Ain't no one listening to this who's doing those, bro. Everyone here,
bullshit.
Everyone here doesn't even know what you're talking about. Kieran's talking about knees to chest, right?
Yeah,
it's what most people are doing.
Yeah, so a hanging leg, and that's the beauty of a hanging leg raise progression, is you can get incredibly difficult with them. And again, this is another one that if done correctly, they are hard. I see so many people at the gym jump onto the bar, start doing their straight hanging leg raises, and they're just rocking all over the place. They're kipping. They're doing all sorts of stuff. Toes to bar kipping.
Toes to bar is very well known from CrossFit. They do toes to bar a lot.
But they do it in a kipping way. So they use momentum. And that's intentional because that's how the exercise is done in their sport. It's kind of like, wrestlers looking at jiu-jitsu takedowns or like blast doubles and be like, oh, that's not how you do it. So, well, in this sport, we do it this way.
Get guillotined.
So because we can get guillotined. Exactly. So that's the best way I can explain it. So don't shit on CrossFit and they're kipping toaster bars because in their sport, that's their rules and it's a different exercise, right?
It's very different to a gymnastics toaster bar.
Exactly. So here, and that is a progression in the hanging leg raise progression. So to start off, jump onto the bar, overhand grip, and you're in a full dead hang, which means that you're at full extension of your elbows and your shoulders, and you're going to keep your knees together, pinned together, and without any momentum, engaging your core the whole time, lift your knees to your chest and back down.
Very hard.
And you don't want to be swinging. You don't want to be, using any momentum at all. Once you get good at that, then you could do the straight leg variation if you're ready. And then if you get good at that, then you can progress to the straight leg toes to bar variation. And then you get good at that, do windscreen wipers.
Very hard work. Yep. This is one that, these sort of exercises, I know that now my size is not beneficial. Like any of these sort of pike sort of positions.
Calisthenics, yeah.
Go with massive long. I know there's guys taller than me who do calisthenics that are great at it, but like long legs when you're having to try hold a pike position and that weight is so far out in front of you. Holy
big
shit,
levers,
man,
baby.
It is very, very hard.
Yeah.
When I see people do that, like sitting in a pike position and lifting their butt and pulling their legs through up into a handstand, my legs wouldn't even fit through there, bro.
That's incredible.
How, but yeah, the great exercise, knees to chest. They hurt a lot. It also does wonders in little air quotes because you'll typically feel the pain the next day for your hip flexors, which it's incredibly valuable for your guard retention, your ability to keep your knees to your chest. And you'll see guys like professional jiu-jitsu athletes do a lot of work with resistance bands because it's so translatable to jiu-jitsu. They'll do stuff where, essentially just lying on their back and they'll have a resistance band tied around their ankle and then to a pole or something. And they're just doing reps of pulling their knees to their chest because that's a lot of guard retention. People are trying to pull your knees away from your chest and you're trying to keep your knees tucked in. So knees to chest or hanging leg raises work that as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and you'll be wanting to get on a trigger ball the next day, I promise you, bro.
So that brings like a little bit of a closeout point that I just wanted to address because I know people are going to be thinking this, or some people out there will be, and I get questions about it a lot, and actual questions, not like, people always ask me, by my, have fucking influencers do that? Like, people always ask me this. No one's asking, bro. Anyway, random side note. I actually get asked about this, about what's the difference or what's the pros and cons, what's better for jiu-jitsu? Is it like lifting weights or is it doing things like body weight work and calisthenics work? Well, there's no like real clear-cut answer to that. I think that the best thing for jiu-jitsu is to choose exercises in both categories that translate well to jiu-jitsu. Because think about it. If you're very good at manipulating your own body weight, that's fantastic. And you're going to be strong, right? But you need to also be able to influence and move an external weight to you, right? In jiu-jitsu, you're manipulating someone else's weight or an external force to you. So that's where lifting weights is going to make you strong, right? And so it's different types of strength. We're talking about core strength, internal strength, stability strength, strength in relation to your own body weight versus, again, all the stability and et cetera, but strength moving an external force. So both are important. If you had to choose one, that's a personal preference, right? I can't make that decision for you. I've tried to like come up with like, I've tried to make that decision, before for people. You just can't. Like you need to make that decision for you. But if you did have to choose one, I would lean more toward lifting weights because it's what I know and love. But maybe someone with a calisthenics background would definitely say, nah, man, like, whatever.
I think what you said is probably the best way to sum it up in the sense that there is no clear-cut answer. The devil's in the details with jiu-jitsu, and unfortunately one of the things we love about jiu-jitsu is how dynamic it is.
Different styles as well.
Yeah,
right?
like I've rolled with people who did calisthenics who felt strong and people who did calisthenics who felt weak.
Yep.
I've rolled with Olympic lifters who felt strong and Olympic lifters who felt weak. I've trained with, gym bros who felt strong and gym bros who felt weak.
Yep.
Like there's no clear cut, this person does this type of strength training, therefore they are, unless they're doing, this person does this jiu-jitsu strength training program, which would have all of that in the sense that, you look at your course, your longevity course with Jordan, it's going to have combinations of strength and mobility, like lifting weights, calisthenic stuff. Like, people feel like a push-up is a calisthenic movement, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be, don't think you have to be one of those dudes who are on the bars in the park doing all this crazy shit.
You're at Bondi Beach with your shirt off and tats and
these
shit.
guys are essentially,
that's their sport.
Like professional athletes. Like
that's their
guys
sport,
who were
right?
doing that whole holding, upside down planks and doing that whole walking their feet in the air a full three. Man, forget about it, right? That's not what we're asking you to do. But, unless someone is doing a specific strength for jiu-jitsu program, I've never trained with a particular person who feels strong because they do this particular workout.
It's like yoga. It's a good analogy for this.
Same with yoga.
Same
some
with
yoga people feel strong, some yoga people feel weak.
Exactly. And if you ask me, oh, will yoga make me better at jiu-jitsu? I'm going to say probably not. And I'm going to say that because doing yoga makes you better at yoga. Yoga is its own thing. Yoga is a sport. Will some of it translate in your mobility and flexibility? Yes, of course. It's kind of like if you started doing strongman shit at the gym, is that going to make you stronger at jiu-jitsu? Yeah, in certain areas. But is that the whole story and that's all you need to do? No, it's different. That's why things like yoga for BJJ, take yoga, manipulate it, take what's good, reject what's not for jiu-jitsu context, and then apply it to jiu-jitsu specifically. And that's why I think, yoga for BJJ, I have literally a competitor program to them, but you got to give respect where respect's due. I've looked at some of their shit and it's pretty decent for jiu-jitsu specifically, but just doing yoga.
It's kind of like this. You've got, we can't finish the episode without some form of analogy. I've been getting shit, actually. People saying I'm not giving enough
analogy.
analogies.
Adam, send it.
Yeah, I've been getting a bit of hate for not putting out enough analogies. But think about it like this. MMA or mixed martial arts cherry picked all the best bits from different martial arts to put it all together to make mixed martial arts. And it's kind of like that for you've kind of got to cherry pick all the particular strength and conditioning mobility exercises from different disciplines and put them all together to make a strength and conditioning mobility workout for jiu-jitsu.
Exactly.
So it's kind of like that. You got to cherry pick, not one. Yeah, you're going to get benefits if you only did one particular thing. Some stuff will translate, but if you're looking for the optimal, and there will be certain areas that you can't go without. The same as in MMA, you can't go without not doing any striking or not doing any wrestling or not doing any jiu-jitsu. Like you've got some areas that are
like mandatory, right?
That are mandatory.
Yeah,
and there will be some sort of areas that are mandatory for that as well. But yeah, you got to cherry pick the things. And I think here are my 5 cherry picks.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant. I got a comment on this is a tangent, but it's gonna make sense. I got a comment on a nutrition video I posted on Jordan Teaches Jiu-Jitsu's YouTube channel, and it was basically the premise of the video. If you haven't seen it, is nutrition for jiu-jitsu. And one commenter jumped in and said, "This is like marketing bullshit. There is no nutrition for jiu-jitsu. There's just nutrition." And I completely disagree with that. Yes, in a way they're right, but in a big way they're wrong. And it's the same with strength and conditioning. In a way, yes, there's just strength and conditioning, but in a way you're completely wrong because, like you said, in the whole field of nutrition or the whole field of strength and conditioning, there's all of these exercises, there's all of these methods and modalities, there's all of these different ways to split up your carbs and your protein and your macros. But if you're looking at developing performance for a specific sport, you can cherry pick, cut the fat, no pun intended, what you don't need, and include all the best bits on all of these fields that you do, and then put it all together. Then you have a BJJ performance and longevity course. Link in the description right now. buy my shit. No, but I wasn't like leading that into the plug, but in a way, yeah, there is just nutrition, but in a way, no, there's sports performance nutrition specifically. Yeah. That's where people make millions and millions of dollars a year being sports nutritionists. Yeah. Do you think that an NBA basketball player's nutrition plan is going to be the same as an endurance athlete's nutrition plan? No, not even fucking close. Their carbs are going to be different, completely different split. They're going to have completely different energy needs and requirements, different outputs, and their macro profiles are going to be completely different because they're different sports, different athletes. Do you think their nutrition plan is going to be the same as an MMA? No, they need to keep a lower body fat percentage to make weight. They need to, there's so many different things going on involved, so many different things involved with all these different sports. I think, not to go on a rant, but it's the same with strength.
Look, I'm going to need you all to go onto that YouTube video, reply to this guy's comment.
Tell him, link him this clip. Fuck you. No. I'm more than happy to take constructive criticism. He wasn't being nasty, sort of. It was like, it was legitimate, like, oh, this is marketing, but whatever. I do want to do a quick summary because I did have this written down. I think it's going to be important.
Yeah, so I wanted to just quickly go over my 5 again. And
okay,
you do.
Adam, you go.
So my 5. Yeah, I'll do mine quickly. So my 5 were, I had 3 pulls in there. I had deadlifts, pull-ups, renegade rows. Then I had 2 pressing movements, which were squats / I changed them out for pistol squats and shoulder press, or the kettlebell's bottom-up press is even better.
Yep.
They were my 5. By all means, not an all-inclusive list, but if I wanted to go to the gym and I only had a little bit of time, 1 day a week or something. Those are 5 exercises I
good,
enjoy doing and I feel them translate. Of course, it could be better. But
man, I like your list.
There are 5 good lifts that I think translate nicely to jiu-jitsu.
Your list is good. And you know what? If that's all I had to work with for a jiu-jitsu program, I think that would be fine because it's push-pull and you have legs and you have a core exercise in the renegade roads. So I think you do tick all the major boxes.
There we go.
So I think it's all right. I would like some grip in there, but
like I said, you could do
deadlifts
you could do
well.
pull-ups with the.
Oh yeah, no, sorry, I'm an idiot. Fucking deadlifts and pull-ups are both grip, so you have that as well.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to shit on you for no reason. No, that's really good. That's really, really good. So yeah, I've categorized mine in push is kettlebell bottoms up press, pull is overhand pull-ups, glutes and bridge is barbell back squat, hinge is single leg deadlifts, and core grip stability is hanging leg raise progressions. There's so many different things to choose from, anything from the other stuff that I mentioned. And just quickly, I want to give a few shout outs and an explanation on core and grip, not to circle back to something that we've already covered. But I put out a BJJ bodyweight strength program, which is why we're sort of talking about it a little bit. And I got a message from a guy that went through it and had some questions, which I thought this would be the perfect episode to sort of answer it live. So shout out to William. He was basically asking in terms of if you're choosing different core exercises for jiu-jitsu, which ones do you go for? Like, because there's a whole bunch of stuff you can do for core. And I broke it down into 3 main categories, and it's core stability and holds. So we're talking about planks, isometric holds, hollow body progression. And isometric is something that you're holding. Think like hanging from a bar. That's where nothing's moving. It's just tensile strength and holding. That's isometric. Second is rotation, which I already mentioned before. And this we're looking at twists, Romanian twists, unilateral core work, and single side planks, landmine twists, things like that. And then finally, in that core sort of isometric hold that I've sort of just lumped in together, you have grip strength, things like farmer's carries, which I didn't mention, which also a very good exercise for jiu-jitsu, dead hangs, variations of hanging with a gi, and that sort of thing. So shout out to William. And if you want to get that free PDF, it's a free little ebook with a full bodyweight program that you can run for jiu-jitsu. We'll put a link in the description of this. But yeah, put out that for free. So feel free to grab that. And a couple more shout outs. If you don't have anything to add, we'll just close it out.
No. I was just getting ready to do one of my terrible outros. That
love it. So I'll shout out to Alex, who came to the gym down from Queensland. He did a drop in. He's visited before.
No, I wasn't there yesterday.
Yeah, Adam wasn't there, but we had a really good role. So thank you very much, Alex. And shout out to our latest Patreon, David. Thanks so much for becoming a Patreon. If you want to get amongst a Patreon, we post some Patreon exclusive content, early episodes, AMAs, all that good sort of stuff. Check a link in the description for that.
Yep. All right, guys. And episode 120 is coming up shortly, which will be our next Ask a Black Belt episode. Mm-hmm. So send in your questions as per usual. Again, the link is in the description.
Yes, 120. That's coming up very soon.
Yeah. So that's in the description on the on Instagram in the link tree at @BeyondJiujitsu_podcast. So send through your questions.
Yep.
But otherwise, guys, pick 5 exercises. You got pick 5 out of the 10. Do all 10, right?
Yeah.
Maybe not in the one session, but okay, your own.
Just do 1 rep.
You're a fucking adult. Set. Do your shit. Right? Get some lifting in, guys. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
See ya.